Welcome back to the Home Story Cup 9 qualifiers, guys. The top 8 tournament at the moment. All of these guys have won their regional districts, I guess you could call it, North America, Korea, and Europe alike, and now they're competing for a fully paid trip to Home Story Cup 9. Now, before we get into the series, I want to address this. A lot of people have been sending me tweets, and that's why I got a little bit flustered before the intro started, about, like, man, they want to see Yoda versus Polt. Guys, I just want to throw this out there. Yoda defeated, like, the Prince of Terran yesterday. He took Joxi down 2-0 in the European qualifiers. If this is Yoda versus Polt, it may be the closest TVT we're going to get in a long time. That being said, though, we're still a long way out. It's a best of 5, and he's got a Protoss player to chew through for spawning here in the lower right corner of the map. He's the barcode. If you scan him, beep, 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 it is the red Terran Yoda. And his opponent top left from Samsung Galaxy, the blue Protoss player coming from Korea, Stork. Of course, won the Korean qualifiers over there. So many good players playing today, guys, and honestly, it's my greatest regret that we can't cast them all, but yeah, both semifinals matches will be cast. There's Firecake versus Polt going on the other side of the brackets, Violet versus Targa, and Roof versus Armani. Armani, of course, is another player named Burning from Samsung Galaxy that you may know in the past. I believe his new idea, like, he's officially changed his idea around to Armani, but yeah, Burning's a player that we've all seen multiple times in the past, especially if you watch Basetradetv. At any rate, Stork is not going to find himself so comfortably able to do Blink on this map. This is not really the map for it. This one, I mean, I think a lot of people look at this map and the first thing off the tip of their tongue is, oh boy, what a macro-oriented map. It's a big map with lots of bases, very spread out, yada yada yada. But I think that actually increases the strength for someone like Yoda to go for things like drops, to get really abusive and try and get up in his opponent's face. One of the things that hurts most for a Protoss player, of course, is trying to respond to the early drops. And please note, guys, we have one very distinct difference happening already this game, and that's Yoda's going for a Reaper. I think even though he lost the last game, it's kind of that point where you're like, alright, you know what? I think I need to scout. This must be done. I don't want to fall prey to any sort of hidden tech once more. Now, this Reaper that comes out, we'll be able to snipe off the probe, which is always really nice. If you do that, of course, then it shuts down. Ooh. That was a slick move out of Stork. He just fakes out the probe here. I don't think he's gonna put a pylon base. I certainly don't think he's gonna do proxies. But Yoda's looking for the probe. He's gotta be like, where did that thing go? That was a for sure kill. Because if you kill the probe early on, then you guarantee there's no proxies, there's no pylons, there's not gonna be a starport, and of course you can't jump up 2 levels of cliff. So he's looking and looking and looking, but there it is, smiling from above, laughing that probey laugh. Jerome. I don't know, that's my probe impression. Sorry. I'm pretty good at StarCraft 2 impressions, I'm not gonna lie. I think my Guardian's my best one, but anyways, back behind the Stork, of course, gonna be expanding himself. He hasn't been one to really show one base play in the past. Especially, I mean, it's funny too, I've been talking to a lot of people at Pro League about how they kind of wish that it wasn't the format that it was. It kind of allows for people to like snipe builds for one another, and that's why you see a lot of, I wouldn't say cheesier builds, but more I guess shorter games over there. Although we do get the odd epic one, which is always a taste and a pleasure. But for the most part, Stork has never really been one to show off a lot of one base. One basing is always super risky. Even if you're in a position where you might win, all it takes is losing like maybe 1 too many stalkers to throw it all away for nuts. But the Reaper's still looking for that probe right now. I think he's really paranoid about a proxy Stargate. Letting that probe away it's eating away at the soul of Yoda right now. This Reaper normally would have been across the map trying to scout the space. He would have seen 3 gates in total. He would see no tech, which I guess is alright, whatever. But by the time this gets over there now, it's not that there's gonna be 1 mothership core and 1 stalker to keep it away. No, there's 2, and the mothership core. The mothership core is watching this little extra Reaper cliff. 2 stalkers over here are waiting for the Reaper to try and fly past. Unfortunately, I don't think Yoda's gonna get much scouting information. If 4 gates off 2 bases, guys, again, nothing too scary, nothing too revealing. So even if he dives in for that scout right now, he's not going to find anything. I mean, 4 gates I guess is worth seeing, but you kind of have to know that it's Protoss on 2 bases. They should be on 4 gates without it being considered like an all-in.
First blood.
Man, I just want to say, I love watching the way Reapers die, and I said this probe wouldn't put a pylon down, but he's going to be so ballsy to do it, and Yoda won't see this. Hang on, the 4 gates make a lot more sense now. Because it's going to be 4 gates directly warping in to Yoda's base. Oh, this is so sneaky and so clever out of Stork. Who needs Robo? Who needs Stargate? If you've got 11 Zealots behind your opponent's defenses, Yoda's moving out. He's gonna go for that snipe of the mothership core, the bait of the photon overcharge, whatever you want to call it. And unfortunately, all these Marines will not be where they need to be. Now he does get a stalker. That's a good start, but surprise, Yoda, within your own base, there's zealots and there's stalkers. SCVs are pulled not to fight, but instead to retreat to the natural for the time being, recognizing that this is not safe, but they need to be the buffer for these Marines and these Marauders. There's no concussive shell. Stim is on the way, but oh my god, the bunker is going to be doing absolutely nothing. We do have the SCVs trying to hold position on the ramp to keep the zealots back, but of course they're taking some pretty heavy losses while this is going on. Looks like the production at the top of the ramp will start dealing with this, but a lot of the Marauders have gone down, which is really unfortunate, and there's nothing in this bunker. So the mothership core actually going to go down to a turret, oddly enough. Time warp comes down on top of the SCVs, but for Yoda, this is not an easy hold. If he can hold till Stem is out, he will clean this up, no problemo. But unfortunately, as we see, this has been a little bit rough on him. He's taken quite a few worker losses, down 22 SCVs at the moment. Only has 14 remaining. And of course, this bunker, he's trying to salvage it. Okay, it's a little bit of money back for this. But oh god, guys, it's 2 base Terran versus 2 base Protoss, and the Terran player is going to have to rely on mules in this situation. Like, take away from what happened in this game, this wasn't like a planned strategy. This wasn't Yoda saying, alright, you know what, I want to have a big hole in my defenses. This was Stork capitalizing on a situation he saw early. Juked out with that probe so nicely. And keep in mind, guys, what's weird to consider, let's say there was a depot at the ramp, which you wouldn't typically have as Protoss. Let's say the bunker was 2 grid spaces over, or not the bunker, the barracks. He would have seen that probe, and none of this would have happened. But again, the small little things. Now, this being said, while Yoda doesn't have a large army supply, Stork does not have a photon overcharge. He lost his mothership core to that turret, and more so, he doesn't have any army value to really fight. He's going to be able to throw down about 4 force fields. Oh, hang on. Force fields. Anybody? But even so, the Marines are not kept back too long. Probes are pulled into this as well. A bit of a reverse situation, bizarro world. He's going to focus down on the mothership core. Probes are actually dealing a ton of damage and holding everything in place for the zealots, but the overcharge gets enough time to go up. And if he had hit a little bit, if he just focused that down, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Either way, forced to disengage and doesn't get a lot of probe kills for his trouble. 22-3 as far as workers killed. Yikes. Now, reeling off the back of this, Stork, he's got an immortal on the way. Yoda's going to try and break through the rocks in the back, which I think is a really cute move. But unfortunately, he's been forced into a situation where he can't really sit back idly by. He knows he's got to kill something. If he had a 3rd command center, this would be a different scenario. But it would also probably be TVZ and not TVP, as you can't usually afford to go for a fast 3rd. But, I mean, the point still stands where I think he knows he has to do some damage. Unfortunately, whether he's able to do that damage or not remains to be seen. There will not be a second overcharge this time, at all. We don't have a lot of force fields left, but there's enough to force field off the ramp once. Alright, he sees the arm, he's going to try and disengage. Force field's going to try and catch these. That was a nice move to go diagonally. Yoda predicting those force fields. But even then, these are such small victories. Because look at this, Robo Bay on the way. Colossus will be out very shortly. We got potentially Blink as well. So even a Viking production right now won't save him. And let's not forget it. He needs to get like 4 medevacs out first. It's kind of the key thing. You know, 2 medevacs is great. Whatever. 4 is the magic number. And then you start producing Vikings behind that. But everything for Yoda is just not looking so hot. This army's really scary for a gateway force, but even an immortal or 2 maybe isn't the scariest thing in the world, but it's the Colossus that's going to change everything. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked, except this time it's Colossus, the Colossus Nation. There's also there's level 1 upgrades going for Yoda. I'll give him that much, but we also have armor completing for Stork here in just a second's time, and of course for Stork, he's a little bit rushed to get these units out himself. But once that Colossus is out, oh, you know what? Hang on, guys. Back this up a sec. I'm talking this big game for the Colossus, but he's not going to have extended thermal lance. There's not a lot of Marauders here, but there's enough that if he can chew through the fat, aka the Zealots, he can get to that Colossus. He can connect to it. Oh, and I don't think he saw the Colossus spawn. I think that came out of the range of the... He may have just barely seen it for like a fraction of a second. But the one Marine a little bit forward, looking to scout, make sure he's not walking blindly into a bunch of Colossus. He will see the one, however. And that's not a good feeling for poor Yoda. Now, granted, one of the greatest things he can do at the moment is try and do some drops. He knows he's got to know Blink won't be available yet. For a player to have gone for that much aggression early on, and a Colossus, there's no way he had the gas to get Blink up ASAP. So, sniping off medevacs is not going to be the biggest threat at the moment. But that doesn't necessarily give you the opportunity to go in and drop. However, as we look in the main, everything here is pretty defenseless. And even if it was just 4 Marauders, sniping off something like the Robo Bay, picking off the Forge, just trying to kick Stork back down a notch. There we go. We get the load up. So this is going to be really nice. What I imagine is going to happen is either... I mean, let's talk about the goal for this attack, right? Like, Yoda's going to try and get into the natural base and have this army fight him, draw it out a little bit if he can. 2 Colossus, whoopee! But the Stalkers are ready in the main. The idea is to hit from a second angle, and he's going to go for the third. Oh, I don't think he actually knows the third's there now. He was just going to walk in and try and pincer from both sides. That's actually really cool. So if he can't get up one ramp, he'll go up the other. But for the time being, going to go straight to that third as predicted. Gonna try and snipe this off. The force down here is tangoing a very dangerous game here on top of the pylon. But the Colossus and the army is split up, and it's always hard to gauge whether you've got enough. Now there's force fields here that make this enough. 1 poor Marine left to die. Yikes, another one goes down in a fiery death. By the way, I still stand strong with the theory that Colossus really need to make Colossus cooler and more relatable to the public so people hate Protoss less. You gotta give them like that dubstep laser sound that comes out of like the Reapers in Mass Effect 3. Just like, right now they got like this little pew, pew. You like the heavy bass of sorry, this is like, I'm like that guy from Police Academy who just, I want to be a sound effects guy. I don't even want to be casting. What am I doing here? I'm in the wrong profession. I don't want to be a cop. I want to do sound effects. But the Colossus production is going to be matched finally by the Viking production. Yoda's been given a lot of time to kind of dial back off of this. We've even got Ghosts coming out. And if there's one thing that's going to make Colossus go down faster than the Vikings, it's going to be EMP'd Colossus being attacked by Vikings. That being said, it's not going to be an easy case as there are quite a few Blink Stalkers available. And quite frankly, Stork has a really strong looking army. Now, this Nexus is going to get up. This kind of sucks. Third base for the Protoss player is going to set him miles ahead as far as economy goes, but Yoda, he's not even looking for a third. He's not, no command center down. He's not trying to do this. At this point, I think, again, because of the way this opened up, he's forced to stick this down to 2 bases, stick to his guns, and try and end the game. Because if he tries to play the macro game without a third, quite frankly, he's not going to play the macro game, bottom line. Man, this army is looking pretty good, though. I like it. I like it a lot. The EMPs, they'll hit the sentries. They'll hit the Colossus. But these are kind of like the big scary flagship units, granted. I think the SCVs just got pulled. He did. That's what I'm talking about. The 2 bases all let out of a Terran player, guys. It's never something you plan for, but it's something you get stuck with sometimes. SCVs on the front lines are going to soak some of these hits. Blank Stalkers are going to have to deal with these Vikings, and EMPs are going to have to come down. Toot sweets! Now we do have 1 blanket EMP go down on top of the Immortal. Gonna get that shield. A couple of the sentries lose their energy. The Colossus in full retreat, but there's still Archons he needs to nail with this. Those EMPs need to be perfect, and the SCVs are stuck behind the Marines. They're not able to get to the front lines, but the Colossus are also going down. The Vikings are gonna land on top of this army, and this is all in out of both players. They've either Stork holds this and wins, or Yoda breaks him and wins. Either way, this is gonna be the end of the line for one of these two. There's not a lot of dialing back off of this. All the SCVs were pulled. Well, not all, but most. Unfortunately, though, the force fields are going to be just that little bit of a buffer that he needed, and the Marines are going to be stuck fighting these Zealots. No kiting going on whatsoever. A blink goes off, and Yoda can't be happy with the results of this fight. I mean, he's still got a little bit of production coming, guys, but again, the reality is it's down to 27 workers. GG is called. Stork will take game number 2, now leading 2-1 in the favor of the Protoss.